In Valorant, there has been many teams that have made it to the top, dominating championships, earning trophies, and everything in between. But what were the 5 best teams to ever exist in Valorant? We're gonna break that down in this video. So the first team that we definitely gotta talk about is Envy turned Optic. In 2021, we saw Envy create a roster that will become Valorant top dogs, but it didn't start that way. FNS has been building this roster since the beginning of Valorant, but we saw a glimpse of what to come in September 2020 when Crashes and Victor joined the team. They were performing incredibly well, but in June 2021, we saw Marv join the squad coming from FaZe, and just 2 months later, Ye El Diablo joined the roster. Under Envy, this team looked incredibly promising, making it to the grand finals of Masters Berlin, only falling to a team called Gambit. Now, after losing out in group stage during Champs 2021, the roster was hungrier than ever, and in 2022, Envy became Optic. Masters in Iceland in 2022 is when Optic really showed up. For whatever reason, this team was known for losing early matches, learning from them, and bouncing back, and it's exactly how Iceland went down. Optic initially started off with a group stage loss versus Xerxia, but after, they went on a 4-game winning streak until meeting Loud in the upper finals. Loud sent them to the lower finals, but Optic did what they do best. Once again, they adapted, 3-0ing Zeta Division and then 3-0ing the rematch against Loud, crowning them Masters champion. Optic had a lot more in the tank, but unfortunately, they weren't able to close out another event. We saw them finish second place in other 2 major events of 2022, and although they only won once, many people were calling Optic the best team in the world and the potential to dominate the coming season. Sadly though, this is where Optic's story ends. Optic didn't make franchising, and although the roster wanted to stay together, it simply wasn't possible, and many of the players branched off apart, and the meta changed as a whole. While many of these players are still dominant on rosters today, they are not together, and this is something that we see throughout the history of Valorant. But if you want to learn exactly how to dominate just like these pro players do, you definitely need to go check out SkillCapped.com, where we break down pro plays, exactly their mechanics, their mid-round decision making, and everything that you need to adopt their skills into your own gameplay and start to dominate your lobbies, climbing the rank ladder with ease. And we offer a money back guarantee, so if you don't climb, you don't pay. It's literally risk-free, so what are you waiting for? Check it out right now in the links down below. Next up, we got to talk about Fnatic, and of course, we have to mention Boaster, who joined Fnatic and went through many iterations before finding the one that stuck, but one man has been alongside him the entire time, Durka. Durka and Boaster really grinded it out, famously losing in the first Masters to Sentinels. By the end of 2022, the other pieces had fallen into place with Leo, Alpha Year, and Chronicle joining the roster. Nobody knew it yet, but this roster was going to make history. See, Boaster and Durka would constantly qualify into events, but were never able to close it out. When these 5 came together, it really all clicked. Fnatic were looking strong in the offseason, and when the franchise leagues opened, Lock-In came around and they were unfreaking stoppable. Fnatic won Lock-In with their famous 11-3 comeback versus Loud and dominated the EMEA region during the regular season. Come Masters Tokyo, Fnatic dominated again, becoming the first ever team to win a back-to-back major in Valorant. Now, Fnatic fell short in Champions 2023, but have the exact same roster going into 2024, and fans are excited to see what they have left. Now, the next team that we definitely got to talk about is Loud. And Loud is up there for one of the most consistent Valorant teams ever, and through many iterations and roster swaps, they find themselves not only at the top of Brazil, but in contention to be the best in the world. Loud's original roster went undefeated in Brazil's 2022 qualifiers. Come the major in Iceland, they went undefeated again, only losing out in the grand finals to Optic. Great showing for World's first look at Brazilian Valorant, but they didn't stop there. The 2022 rivalry between them had been born, Optic versus Loud, and Loud once again meet Optic in Masters Berlin, but this time in a group stage elimination match that nobody expected. One of the top teams from the last event would be going home. Loud lose in the group stage, getting eliminated by Optic yet again. Looking forward to Champs at the end of the year, they want revenge. Champs comes around and Optic and Loud are placed in the same group, and with both winning their opening matches, in the upper group match for the 3rd time in a row, Optic defeat Loud. But what Loud does next was unthinkable. Loud find themselves in the elimination group game, and from that game onwards, Loud didn't lose a single map and even defeated Optic 2-0 in the upper finals, but the job was not finished. For the 3rd time this tournament, Loud would face Optic, and it was Champions Grand Finals, and everything was on the line. 2 overtime maps would go down during that series, and Loud came out on top in both. Loud closed out the best of 5, winning 3-1 and became champions of the world, finally cementing their revenge against Optic and crowning themselves the best team at the time. Throughout 2023, Loud has 2 more top 3 finishes in majors, but were unable to close out any victories. Cut to the present though, Loud's only 2 original members that remain are Sadak, the IGL, and Les, who is one of the best players in the world. And although they don't have the original squad, Loud continues to prove themselves as a top contender and are looking to do it again in 2024. Now the next org we gotta talk about is Sentinels. And while this org has had many sections of dominance, we're specifically gonna talk about the time after TenZ joined, where they went on a dominating run that is still prevalent to this day. Sentinels are probably the most famous team ever, and their current reign started when TenZ was loaned from C9 to play for Sentinels in March of 2021. They started their journey by winning their first regional Masters event the same month after TenZ joined the team. After winning the regional, they had a very dominant run in qualifiers to Masters Iceland. Come Iceland, TenZ and Sentinels went undefeated, closing out the grand finals 3-0 versus Fnatic. Then after the remainder of the 2021 season, Sentinels would qualify into the majors, but not make any real notable runs. Come 2022, and the Sentinels' downfall was upon us, and the beginning of a franchise league, TenZ was the only remaining member from the Iceland winning squad. The entirety of 2023 was less than optimal for Sentinels. They won a couple of regular season matches, but were unable to qualify for any big events. In the offseason going into 2024, Sentinels were looking like they might be back, bringing on a new rookie, John Cutie, as IGL, previous Sen player Zelsis on board, along with 3 players from last year's roster, TenZ, Zekin, and Saucy. Sentinels were winning off-season events and looking very strong. Coming into 2024's opening tournament, Sentinels faced Loud, losing 0-2. From that point on though, they dominated the remainder of the tournament, even knocking out the likes of NRG's super team, sending Sentinels to Madrid for their first shot at the title in over 1,000 days. Going into Madrid, it was clear Sentinels were in form and the results showed it. They won every series until facing the likes of Gen G in their upper bracket final. Learning from this defeat, Sentinels stopped over PaperX in the lower final and went on to the grand finals to rematch Gen G. This grand finals went the distance, all the way, map 5, 7, and 5 on Icebox. Sentinels locked in and only lost a single round that half, closing out the tournament and bringing home another trophy for Sentinels. With the remainder of 2024 ahead of us, Sentinels have expressed that they will not be slowing down and are prepared to win it all again. Now, before we get into our last team, there are a lot of honorable mentions and even more that we will probably miss, so definitely let us know if we missed your favorite team down below. First honorable mention is PRX, which made multiple grand finals and is the current best team in the APAC region. This team is insane, and I always love watching them for the crazy strats they pull off. FPX won Masters Copenhagen, and now the same 5 players are competing under Na'Vi, and this team is incredible. Gambit won Masters Berlin, and for a while, this team was expressing some serious dominance. And in the early days of Valorant, DRX definitely deserves a huge honorable mention because they went on a 100-game winning streak in APAC regional matches. While this wasn't challenging them on an international stage, still, to be able to dominate your region this severely, that's just crazy, and no one on this list has even come close to that level of regional dominance, so they definitely deserve an honorable mention. You could definitely slot them in the 6th place slot. Now, last but certainly not least, we got to talk about 2023 EG. At the beginning of 2023, people didn't know what to expect from EG, but by their 3rd match, they were calling them one of the worst teams in NA. EG were also the only team in NA to have a reserve team. This meant that they had a full pro team of 5 players with the sole purpose of having in-house practice against the main roster. EG, though, made a pretty controversial decision to swap out BCJ and put in a rookie duelist player named Demon1 onto the main roster. Little did they know that Demon1 would turn out to be probably the best duelist player that at the time we have ever seen. With Demon1 on the roster, EG were able to get a couple of wins, and by the skin of their teeth, they qualified for playoffs. In the playoffs, they were able to defeat C9, and NRG claimed a 3rd place spot, just enough to send them to Masters Tokyo. But in Masters Tokyo, EG looked very, very strong. They were winning match after match, only following to Fnatic, sending EG to the lower bracket. After winning upper finals versus PaperX, EG had a 2-shot at Fnatic, and sadly they did lose the series 1-3, but this tournament turned EG from a bottom 3 franchise team to a championship contender. It also put Demon1 on the map, some claiming he's the best duelist in the world, and as of that tournament, no one could deny deny it. This Masters Tokyo placement qualified EG into champions, and at the end of the year, they were ready to win it, and EG dominated that event, losing only a single series to Paper X. After losing that match, they fought their way all the way to the grand finals, and in the grand finals, they met Paper X once again, but this time, they weren't going to let it slip away. EG won LA's grand finals 3-1, becoming champions of the world and completing an insane underdog story. Now, there are many teams that had moments of brilliance throughout Valorant's history, but were there any ones that we missed in this video? Definitely let us know in the comments down below, and make sure that you check out SkillCapped right now if you want to learn how to pop off, just like many of these pro players. What are you waiting for? Check it out right now down below.